eventually delivering the last.
You think I'll cross and take my mans out, just kill yourself. In the trenches, 40 on my hip, I had to fix my...
Shout out Daily Dose of Football. You guys always having tough videos, bro.
Listen to this. Back in 2006, Ronaldinho was on top of the world, and I mean this quite literally. Not only had he been named the best player on the planet 2 years in a row, but now he had taken the Champions League trophy less than a month before the World Cup started. It was the face of...
He got best player 2 years in a row. I don't like that.
No, I don't like that.
He had taken the Champions League trophy less than a month before the World Cup started. He was the face of football, the ultimate poster boy, and he had the fans betting their houses away that come the end of that tournament, the end of that year, it would be named the world's greatest player once more. But regardless, only 18 days after that, back in Brazil, they would be burning down his statues. Ronaldinho hadn't just disappointed. He had crashed out of the tournament without scoring a single goal, getting outshined and knocked out by a 34-year-old Zidane that was 1 week away from hanging his boots for good. And that really got to him. As his teammate Alexander Halev famously said, he would routinely show up to training either drunk or hungover. Before you knew it, he was going almost a year without playing for Brazil, and then Guardiola pretty much kicked him out of Barcelona, saying that he was a bad influence on Lionel Messi. By the time he got to AC Milan, the world saw him as nothing but an out-of-control overweight has-been, and he ended up paying the price for that. 2 years after arriving in Italy, Ronaldinho was his team's top scorer. He was the top assist provider across the entire country. He was averaging a goal contribution every 98 minutes. Back in Brazil, the polls claimed 89% of the population wanted to see him at the 2010 World Cup. Romário, Muricy Ramalho, Vanderlei Luxemburgo, and damn near every other big name in the sport campaigned in his favor. And yet, when the list was made public, his name wasn't there. Ronaldinho had lost his chance to redeem himself, and to this day, many believe this was the end. But that's why I made this video. Those people are massively wrong. After 6 more months of wallowing in his own self-pity, something awoke inside Ronaldinho, and he announced to the world that even though he would be 34 years old by then, he would do anything in his power to make it to the...
I'm not liking that. Why dapping up? I don't like how they friends. That mean they cool.
2014 World Cup, and with his reputation destroyed in Europe, the first step was to get back to Brazil. He just had to figure out to what was back. Everyone thought he'd go back to Grêmio, but well, if you need to know something about Ronaldinho, it's that his brother/agent was always the one calling the shots, and let's just say, he isn't the most sentimental person.
Why bro Loki look like the fat
He's the one calling the
He do, bro. What's
I don't like that. I don't like they might be related.
Let's just say, he isn't the most sentimental person. In fact, he didn't even care that Ronaldinho himself had already told the press that if it was up to my own wishes, I'd already be at Grêmio, or that he had already shook hands with the club president, or even that Grêmio were literally already in the middle of preparing Ronaldinho's presentation. When Flamengo showed up with a millionaire offer, he went back on his word without thinking twice. The whole situation was so shameless that even Pele himself called the transfer saga a sickening process, while the president of Grêmio ended up insinuating that Ronaldinho's brother was a psychopath. As you may imagine, the fans never forgave either of them. Regardless, with Ronaldinho being lured into changing his mind thanks to the famous nightclub clause that contractually allowed them to party for 2 nights a week, the deal was done, and half of Rio went crazy. 20,000 fans rushed towards the club's training center. They literally knocked down the gates so they could see Ronaldinho. I'm not even exaggerating. The man looked scared. But these fans did have a reason to be euphoric. Sure, Flamengo were the supposed kings of Brazil, with more national championships than any other club, but just a year before, they had finished 2 points off of relegation. This man was their savior. Once he arrived at the club, they immediately made him captain, free kick, and corner kick taker. They just handed everything off to him, said, please save us, and no joke, 9 matches later, Ronaldinho was already scoring the decisive goal in the final of the Guanabara Cup. That's what you call instant impact. And the funny thing is that they won the Rio Cup as well, which is a problem, because the winners of those 2 competitions are supposed to play each other for the title of Carioca champion, but they had won both, so there was no way to even play the final. They just gave them the trophy. Regardless, don't think for a second that Ronaldinho had just gave
I'm trying to listen to the fucking audio, but this nigga is always doing some shit.
them the trophy. Regardless.
Bro, can you stop?
Bro, just go and walk there.
Like, it
Don't
wasn't
think
even
for a
that far from
second
us.
that
So lazy.
Ronaldinho just turned into a hard-working, God-fearing man overnight. All throughout those months, the fans kept spotting him jumping from one nightclub to the
Bro,
other.
no. That
Hilariously,
second picture, he
but
look
those
like 2
months,
Chainz.
the fans kept
Boy, like 2 Chainz. Bro, hell no.
Boy.
spotting
Oh,
and
look,
jumping
he's
from
zooted in
one
that
nightclub
shit,
to the
dog.
other. And hilariously, once the national championship started, they lost their patience. And by that, I mean that a group of fans set up what they called Disc Dentuço, a hotline fans could call if they happened to spot Ronaldinho in a nightclub. To which, and this is a direct quote from a newspaper, the plan was to man-mark Ronaldinho to put him under pressure. Whenever they called, send someone to find him and try to convince him to go back home. And look,
This is your brain, and you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain, and you're in the zone.
they claimed they received about 4,000 calls, and sure, clearly 90% were pranks, but one thing you can't take away from them is that Ronaldinho was playing well up till then, but once the whole thing began, he started 13 matches, scored 12 goals, assisted another 5, and led Flamengo to an unbelievable unbeaten streak. I'll even go one step further. Only 6 matches into that period, he put down one of the best performances of his career in what has become known as the game of the century. Look, let me set up the stage for you. Neymar versus Ronaldinho, Santos versus Flamengo. One had just won the Libertadores a month before, the other was right in the middle of a streak where they were only defeated once in the span of 42 matches. As they say, let the games begin. 5 minutes in, Santos went in front. Then Neymar assisted the second with a sort of bicycle kick. And with
Oh, I
maybe
remember
the
this
greatest
game.
miss of all time in between,
when we
Neymar
reacted
came
this?
back and scored literally the goal of the year. There isn't much more that can be said about that, except for one thing.
that shit.
It was time for the king to show the prince how it was done. Just 2 minutes later, Ronaldinho scored the easiest step in the world. 4 minutes after that, Flamengo scored another. And 2 minutes out from halftime, Neymar goes down in the box. Helano eats the panenka, misses it so hard, the goalkeeper ends up doing kick-ups in front of him. And only 58 seconds later, Ronaldinho hits the corner. And David, the guy who had missed the open goal, ties the match before halftime. But again, we were only midway through the match. Once it restarted, Neymar scored another beautiful goal. And that's when Ronaldinho really woke up. First rolling in a free kick underneath the wall, and then with the clock counting down, knowing that whoever scores not only wins but gets the hat-trick, Ronaldinho gets the ball on the left side and smacks in the winner. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get much better than that. In fact, Ronaldinho was truly performing the miracle they had asked of him. About a month after the match, Flamengo were top of the league. Keep in mind, they had only won a national championship once in the past 19 years. It was all shocking enough that Ronaldinho actually made it back to the national team. Years. Keep in mind, they had only won a national championship once in the past 19 years.
But
It was
wait,
all
they should have signed me.
shocking enough that Ronaldinho actually made it back to the national team. But then, the problem started. You see, the only reason Flamengo had been able to make Ronaldinho that millionaire offer was that they had made a deal with his sports marketing agency named Trafic. But then they got into a whole mess with both parties insisting the other half wasn't holding up their end of the deal. So Trafic stopped paying Ronaldinho when his form just evaporated instantly. He barely ever scored, and suddenly they were on a rut of 4 wins in 16 matches, dropping all the way down to 4th place, which the Grêmio fans loved, making sure to mock him by waving $1 bills with his face on them as they beat Flamengo 4-2. Still, with Ronaldinho finishing the year as his team's top scorer and the board insisting they would find a way to pay him out of their own pocket, he stayed for one more season. But even though he picked his form back up again, clutching their Libertadores playoffs with a goal and an assist after a first-leg defeat, and then even leading the tournament on assists, only 5 months into the season, his brother lost it for good. He went into one of the club's stores, took 40 shirts, and tried to leave without paying, telling them that they owed his brother much more money than those shirts were worth, eventually forcing one of the club's financial directors to come down there and get it sorted, which was so embarrassing, they ended up just terminating his contract.
Oh yeah, come on, bro. I'm for real, bro. His brother kind of crashed out.
Crashed out. For
He
what?
really trying to crash out. Why are you trying to steal some shit? You know dang well you got to pay for it, boy.
And you rich.
Come on, bro.
Suddenly, Ronaldinho's redemption arc was back to square one, but that didn't faze him because 300 miles away, Atletico Mineiro had already been preparing for this. The moment their manager Cuca saw the news that Ronaldinho was out of Flamengo, he called the president and straight up told him, "Our number 10 is waiting for us." 6 days later, Ronaldinho was already signing a new contract, and this time, no one could come out saying it was all about money. He would only be paid 1/4 of what he was getting at Flamengo. And again, the moment the rumors of the transfer surfaced, everyone lost their minds. The first time Ronaldinho secretly visited their training center, there were news helicopters flying above trying to get a glimpse of the man. Every reporter seemed to think they were crazy for taking him in, but President Khalil insisted, "I may be mad, but I'm not mad enough to turn down the chance to sign Ronaldinho." And the man had a point. Looking at that squad on paper, it looked like 10 men plus Ronaldinho. Up front, they had Joe, who had flopped at Man City, Bernardo would go on to flop even harder at Everton, and Guilherme went from football manager cult hero to playing in the 4th tier. From top to bottom, there was nothing impressive about that starting 11. Even their manager Cuca was known as this hit-or-miss kind of guy that had been made into a punching bag by the supporters, who did not tolerate the fact that he had come straight from their rivals Cruzeiro. After surviving relegation by a mere 4 points the year before, there were jokes going around that Mineiro couldn't even bring 2,000 fans to their stadium, but all that was just talk. The reality was that this was a hungry squad with some down-on-their-luck players desperate to prove the world wrong, so they deposited all of their hope on Ronaldinho. As one teammate explained in a podcast, it could be an hour late to training, no one would bat an eye. We would all just stand there playing rondo, waiting for him. Even when he wasn't fit to train, he'd come in, wait for the press to leave, and then go up to his room to rest. It was all about keeping the drama to a minimum and allowing the man to do his magic. There was only one ultimatum. You show up drunk once, you're out.
Are you having trouble trying to keep up with your professor? You've got to try
rule- they put a
honor.
rule
Here's
on
how
that
it
nigga.
works.
Regardless, with the man arriving just as the Brazilian Championship started, the timing was perfect and he did not waste a single second. 3 months later, he had already led the club on a 40-match unbeaten streak, even scoring an incredible solo goal to put his team in front in the last minute of their match against city rivals Cruzeiro. And even better, thanks to that goal, the supposed relegation squad were able to hold on to the top of the league charts with only 18 matches left in the season. From that moment on, they kept fighting, trying to stay one step ahead, and when 3 narrow defeats saw them drop to second, even with Ronaldinho's stepfather suddenly passing away from a heart attack, the same way his biological father had died back when he was a kid, not only did he refuse to miss the next match they had to play the very next day, but he went in, scored after 12 minutes, and despite not being able to hold the tears back as he celebrated a goal, he kept going and closed out the game with 3 goals and 2 assists, leading Mineiro to their biggest ever win in the Brazilian Championship. He even closed out the season with 11 goal contributions in 9 matches, but as much as he tried, they still fell 5 points short of the title. However, there were 2 clear silver linings. First of all, Ronaldinho won the Golden Ball, being named the best player in the country, and more importantly, that second place meant he had secured qualification for the Copa Libertadores.
This nigga was getting busy. He was cooking him into a different nigga.
Atletico to her. God,
That nigga overcooked him.
Second place meant he had secured qualification to the Copa Libertadores, and all that put together meant he was back in the national team. So the next year, with Atletico Mineiro legends Diego Tardelli and Gilberto Silva back at the club, it was time to go above and beyond, and the strategy was simple. They rested Ronaldinho for most of the Mineiro Championship matches, and when it was time to play the Libertadores, they unleashed the beast. Right from the first match, facing off precisely against São Paulo, Ronaldinho assisted 2 goals to clutch the 2-1 win. But look at how he got that first assist. He went up to Rogério Ceni asking for water and no.
appreciate the sub.
Look at how he got that first assist.
Wait, am I
He
going
assisted 2 goals to clutch the 2-1.
That's offsides like a bitch. That's like more than offsides, nigga. That's like
That's way more than offsides.
nigga. I thought he was the goalie.
Nigga, he passed the border. What the fuck What the hell is this? Come on, dog.
One win, but look at how he got that first assist. He went up to Rogério Ceni asking for water, and knowing there can never be an offside coming from a throw-in, he asked for the ball, squared it to Joe, and that was it. The next match was against Arsenal Sandy, and again, he was man of the match, assisting Bernard twice and then putting in the cross for his hat-trick. Then, against the strongest, he assisted Joe for the first and scored the second for yet another 2-1 win. But the real problem would be facing them away at Bolivia, where the altitude affects foreign players so much, the medical staff has to bring in oxygen tanks. For some perspective, they hadn't lost to a foreign team in 7 years. Mineiro themselves arrived 8 days earlier just to prepare the players for that one match, and only then were they able to beat them, with Ronaldinho starting the play that put them ahead and sort of forcing an own goal for another 2-1 win. And once that was done, he went and took the man of the match against Arsenal Sarandi once more, not just assisting the final goal and converting a penalty, but also scoring one of the goals of the tournament. Finally, with their first place finish already secure, they sort of slipped and lost the last match against São Paulo, allowing them to qualify for the knockout stages as the worst second place team, meaning they would have to face each other again in the last 16 round, which was fine until Ronaldinho decided to tell the press in the post-match interview that, honestly, I'm not worried, this was like a practice match for us, pissing off the entire São Paulo squad and creating a media storm that had thousands of fans waiting for their downfall and eventually getting their hopes up as São Paulo went in front 9 minutes into the first leg, only for Ronaldinho to tie the match back up with a header and go crazy celebrating the goal, yelling the club's motto on top of his lungs, eventually delivering the last...
Nigga, why is he asking us stuff? Oh, what's up, Daily Dose of Football?
Bro, come on, bro. Did he just say what's up to us, dog? Oh, what's good, Kai and J-Dot? Oh, what's good, cameraman?
Celebrating the goal, yelling the club's motto on top of his lungs.
We was doing good. We was doing good, bro.
We didn't see a single no look from him all game.
The video was literally the video. The video was just meant to be over. Dang it, bro.
Actually delivering the classiest assist imaginable as they destroy them 6-2 on aggregates. And even in the middle of all of this, Ronaldinho managed to take time away from the Libertadores to face Cruzeiro for the final of the Mineiro Championship. And not only did he assist 2 in the first leg, getting Mineiro their biggest win against their rivals in 6 years, but once they were 1 goal away from a comeback in the second leg.
Okay, alright, that nigga in the middle was super kid. He looked devious as shit.
I'm behind him too.
They were 1 goal.
But the dude in the middle, his shorts don't even fit.
Alright, nigga, come
His
on,
shorts
dog.
too
Why
big.
you sagging with your shit? This nigga too. Come on, what's up with y'all?
From a
I got the last pair of
in the
pants.
second leg, he came in to score the goal that ensured they would get the
That's a big ass
trophy.
trophy.
After this, things didn't exactly slow down either. After being 2-0 down in their quarterfinal first leg against Tijuana, Ronaldinho came in with the assist that started the comeback. And again, in the second leg, with Mineiro going behind once
Did I
more,
see that right?
he
That shit was
assisted.
freaky as hell.
And again,
Nah.
in the
Did
second
he
leg,
just
with
say he
Mineiro
having a
going
boy?
behind once more,
Oh my
he assisted
Kiss-
the decisive
This is
goal.
not a gender reveal.
Though, to be fair, the real miracle only came when their goalkeeper, who would become known as Saint Vitor from that day on, saved the last-minute penalty, getting the whole stadium to start chanting, "I believe." But then, things went very wrong.
Amazon is overcharging you, but I can show you how to avoid it. Don't spend another dime on Amazon.
After over a year of strangely good behavior, right before the semifinals were to be played, Ronaldinho showed up to the team's camp in the middle of the night, drunk, blaring music from a portable speaker. When the players woke up the next day, the president had already kicked him out of the club. It was this close to being the most anticlimactic ending ever, but then the players heard that he was already getting on a plane to Rio, so they got in a car, raced to the airports, and got him back to the training center. After a lengthy team meeting in the locker room, his teammates told the president they would take the blame for anything Ronaldinho may do in the future, that if we want to win the Libertadores, we need this guy. And the rest is history. A few days later, they once again lost the first leg 2-0, this time against the Newell's old boy of Maxi Rodriguez. And despite critics claiming that Ronaldinho seemed off his game, only 2 minutes into the second leg, he assisted Bernard for the opening goal. And 80 minutes later, with the team seeming unable to break past the deadlock, the lights of the stadium went out. The match stopped, the whole squad gathered by the sideline, and I don't know what Cook had told them, but they went back in, tied the match, and eventually won on penalties. Ask any Mineiro fan, and they'll tell you this was divine intervention. After going through all of this, there was nothing that could bring them down, and so, when they were sent into the second leg of the first Libertadores final in their history, with a 2-goal deficit yet again, they didn't care that Olympia had already started preparing their celebrations, even once it became clear that that day, luck would not be on Ronaldinho's side. After 7 months allowing him to carry them, the team took charge and forced the game into penalties. Half an hour later, Atletico Mineiro were South American champions, and Ronaldinho had won what seemed like the only trophy missing from his cabinet. And once the reporters got to him, he only had one thing to say. Not long ago, everyone said I was finished. Let them talk now. Unfortunately, shortly after that day, he ruptured his thigh, spending months on the sidelines and never fully recovering. But as much as the World Cup dream died a premature death, no matter what, in the end, he had been named the South American Player of the Year at 34 years of age.
Tough.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, bro. Everybody that doubted him. I ain't gonna cap, bro. The freak. Like, bro, just because he drink, bro, don't mean he can't just keep focused back on the thing, bro.
Marshawn Lynch took 2 shots of Henny before every game, bro, and won 2 Super Bowls, bro.
Oh God, bro.
Super Bowls.
And I won 10.
Just find the next video before I crash out today.
Heard you one time to the mob. Heard that you trying to get involved with it. Heard that you trying to come by.